Yeah, there we go. All right. Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday afternoon. Hope you guys have had a good morning. Um, I'm just super excited about the PowerPoint designer feature that took the text and somehow created this image. I think that's so neat. I don't know. Maybe I'm like Michael Scott when he's being shown how much in debt he is with Oscar's PowerPoint presentation. He's like, wow, that's so cool how you see my name right there. Um, and that I'm easily impressed by technology. But this is a good topic. This is a topic that we're seeing all over the place. Matt, give me an estimate on the number of loans that you closed last year, percentage wise, that used gift funds.
I mean, honestly, best guess, I'd say at least like 50%.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It
mean,
was
more
high.
than half. And if you look at the industry data, right, more than 60% of first-time home buyers are pulling their down payment and or plus closing costs from two different sources or multiple sources. That can be a gift from family members. That can be down payment assistance through a government program, a municipal program, whatever. That can be a 401k, a 401k loan, uh, anything really. It's tough out there, as we all know, in this inflationary environment. It's been a difficult year where a lot of people have eaten away at savings and tapped into using credit cards more frequently. So, um, gift funds are certainly something that we're seeing more and more often in the marketplace. It's not a new thing, but I think it is something that's important to understand because gosh, 7, 8 years ago, you needed to have your own funds in order to buy a property. I remember in 2016, there was a 5% down conventional loan that you had to have your own funds. So what happened is if you're getting money from mom and dad, you would put it in your account, you would let it season there for 60 days, and then it becomes your money, right? Um, that has pretty much all gone away where gift funds are allowed on just about every loan that we do with some limited restrictions. Okay. So it has become easier to use gift funds to buy a property. The goal of this training is just to get you in a spot where you can talk about this completely, right? Obviously, we could talk about it. We do it all day, every day. But just to be able to have a discussion about, well, I'm really struggling with where to come up with the down payment. Okay, well, do you know gift funds are allowed on just about every loan? You're living with mom and dad. Maybe they want you out of their basement, right? Have you thought about sweetening the pot or maybe going to mom and dad and talking about gift funds? You know? So um, just knowing where to interject or ask certain questions or certain pressure points that you can apply, I think can help you convert more deals, especially amongst first time buyers. Holy cow, look at this matrix. This is intense. Acceptable gift donors. Okay. So this has also gotten more lax over the past handful of years. And you're going to see these two columns on the left apply to conventional loans. All right. You can do a 3% down conventional loan and get the whole thing as a gift. You can get closing costs as a gift, right? Um, and you can get that from any of these bullet point sources. Um, if you read this, and I'll give you a moment to read it, you will see that there is a lot of gray area here. Okay. So let me tell you a Colin story. I bought my first house with my now wife in 2013 in Eagan. And when we bought the property, I'm male, right? So I'm not good with finances. I needed a gift from her for a portion of the down payment. I actually think it was debt payoff, believe it or not. Um, so she needed to gift me funds. And the loan officer we were working with at the time said, hey, um, you need to list her as your fiance on this gift letter. I'm sorry if that applies some extra pressure to you, Colin, but that's what is required in order for you guys to, proceed with this, right? And we just celebrated 9 years of blissful married life. So everything worked out, right? But that gives you some color as to it used to be, you have to be a fiance. I've seen lenders ask for, well, is there a ring on her finger? That's the way it used to be. Now, if you look at this, just about every one of these loans will allow a close friend as a donor. Okay. So a lot of gray area here. One thing that is not allowed are interested party contributions. So if you are the real estate agent or you are the builder, right? Incentives is another thing, right? But you cannot gift these funds if you are an interested party in the transaction. Okay. But this is good to keep in mind in terms of what relationships are allowed for you to be an acceptable donor of a gift. Anybody run into some unique situations with this, or, you know, uh, hey, underwriter asked me to pull up their Facebook page and prove that they're friends with this person? That's happened to me. Nobody? No goofy gift situations? All right.
Sam had one where the loan officer actually asked them to get married. They were already engaged and they asked them to get married. I don't know if it was like a gift situation, but they almost
That
got
VA.
married. Yeah. And then they
Yeah, that makes
almost
sense.
got married and they're like, never mind. But now they're married and they have 3 kids.
There you go. See? All's well that sometimes guys just need a kick in the rear. Come on, what are you doing here?
That was that fairway deal.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Save up 3 months salary. Is it still 3 months salary? Or is that like a 1950s term that I'm just clinging on to? For the cost of a ring?
That's what I remember calling. Or in Michael Scott's 3 years.
Yeah.
So documenting gift funds, and Rachel, just to kind of close the loop on that's a loan thing. That's not a donor thing, right? So VA requires the borrowers to be married unless they're putting 12.5% down, which they were in this case, but never mind that, right? With gifts, there's a lot more gray area. So, with VA, you need to be married to use both incomes. It's the only loan type that cares about that. But with gifts, they're not going to be sending you down to the courthouse to be able to use gift funds at closing. So,
Colin, did you miss my message here about what about when their boss wants to gift them funds?
yeah. Yeah. That will work. I mean, Austin's referencing a VA deal that we closed last month. I'm trying to remember, it's March now. And I think it was it was a close family friend. Yes, it was their boss, but it was also close family friend. We actually never did anything with that, Austin, but again, the VA handbook has so much gray area in it that if it makes sense, it makes sense. You bring up a good point, by the way. Like, look at how there's all these bullet points on conventional and FHA, and then VA is like, oh, a gift can be permitted as long as they're not affiliated with the builder, developer, real estate agent, or other interested party. Like, okay. Why do you think that is? That that VA is so silent on gift funds? The 0% down loan, right? So you don't usually need a gift for 0% down, especially if you're getting closing costs covered. But VA will allow a gift in some circumstances. In Austin's case, the borrower needed to pay off some funds, some debt to qualify. And Austin was able to negotiate seller paid closing costs that we used a portion of to pay off debt. And VA is the only type of loan that allows you to use seller concessions to pay off debt. So yeah, their boss, I mean, again, a lot of it is, what is your relationship with this person? You know, does it pass the sniff test? In terms of documenting the transfer of gift funds, there are two ways to do it. Number one is, all right, mom sends money to son, puts that money in the son's account. We're done, right? The borrower then presents an updated bank statement that shows the funds in there. And mom, the donor, presents a bank statement or transaction history that shows the money moving out of their account. This is the required way to do it on government loans. FHA, VA, USDA, you got to move the money and you got to get a donor's bank statement to show the money clearing. In other words, a paper trail that shows the money going from donor to borrower. Now, some people don't like this, right? You know, I've had plenty of boomers that will say like, hey, you know, I don't want you or my kids seeing my personal information. Like, this is not what I want at all. Chris, you were talking about this, you know, where the grandma ended up saying, forget it. And they went all cash, right? If I'm remembering that correctly. Yes, I am remembering. She's probably on the phone. It was not our deal, but I remember her bringing that up in a previous situation where, you know, grandma or mom or dad say, hey, look, I don't want to present my bank statement to underwriting, or, you know, like, that's none of their business when it comes to this loan, right? Well, if you want to circumvent that, option 2 for conventional loans only is that the donor can just send the funds directly to title. You know, Chris closed the loop on that. Yeah, grandma didn't want anyone knowing how much money she had. So she ended up, instead of $100,000 gift, paying $486,000 cash. Thanks, grandma. Grandma could have easily wired this money to title directly. So grandma's given a $100,000 gift. She sends a wire to Flex Title, right? Flex Title receives that money. They have a wire receipt. It matches our gift letter, which we're going to get to in a minute. And then we don't have to see grandma's bank statements at all, right? So on conventional loans, wiring that money direct to title or getting a cashier's check that's made out to buyer and title company is the slickest way to do it. Any questions about that? Everybody understand that? Everybody kind of been through the functionality of that with conventional loans?
And I was able to do that recently on a VA loan as well.
Oh, really?
We just sent it direct. Yep, we just sent it directly. Please remind your people though to make sure the reference number is on there, because when you're sending money from overseas and you don't put the reference number, it could create a problem. Resolved, but yeah, so they were able to do it. It was easier for her to send it directly there than have to deal with it, you know, deal with out of country money. So
Yeah. Who's her?
it worked.
Just curious, Jen.
My client, she was a wife. She was a wife, but she wasn't on the loan. So she was gifting money, but it was in Germany. So we had to get that money from Germany over here. So the easiest way to do it without having to deal with a bunch of underwriting stuff was to send it directly to title.
Interesting. Good to know
Yeah.
that. Who was a lender? Was it VU?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Cool. Good to know. That's a lot easier than trying to sift through translated German bank statements. At least I would think so.
That is exactly why we did it. That was interesting.
All right. The gift letter. All right. So we've covered how money gets from the donor to the borrower, right? But what other documentation is required in the file? Well, this is a standard gift letter that will be a one-page document that's docu-signed by the borrower and by the donor, right? So this is saying, hey, this is what the subject property address that would match your purchase agreement. And then it would say, I, Colin Smith, do certify that I've given a gift in the amount of 25 grand to the recipient below. These funds are available in time to close the mortgage. The source of the gift is my Chase savings account. The date of the transfer would be, if you're doing option one, it'd be the time that it hit the borrower's account. If you're doing option two, it would be at closing, right? And then this guy cut off a little bit on the bottom, but donor relationship to the recipient, applicant, borrower, right? Like spouse, child, dependent, individual engaged to marry the borrower. And that sounds like a fiance, but why use one word when you can use 6, right? Former relative. So it's going to identify what the relationship is, and then it's going to spell out what the borrower's name, address currently, and phone number is, and what the donor's name, address, and phone number is. The donor is going to sign it and date it. The borrower is going to sign it and date it. And then this is going to go in the loan file. So why is this so important? Like, so often when people are like, the money's there, like, why do you care? Right? It's been a while since that's happened to me, but it does happen. People, get upset about, poking around, especially parents. It's like, why are you poking around my financial information? Like, why do you think we need a gift letter in the file?
To prove it's not fraud.
There's an anti-money laundering part of it. Yep, absolutely. That's important. Why else? So if you think about it, we're calculating the borrower's debt to income ratio. A gift is a lot different than a loan. Chris, you're exactly right. Nailed it. Prove that they don't need to pay it back, right? If it's a loan for 25 grand that's going to be at 5% interest, or it's a, promissory note or whatever, right? That's different. Now, have I had borrowers say like, hey, I worked out a deal with my parents, and like, that's up to you guys. Okay. For the sake of what we're talking about here, like, this is a gift. Okay. Which means that they're giving you money. There's no expectation of repayment. And thus it's not a loan that we should factor into the debt to income ratio. Everybody understand that? This is pretty easy. Our processor does this and sends it out, and we're good to go. All right, common questions on gift funds. Tax implication questions, the most common one that I get, right? So, well, how does this affect me from a tax perspective? Can my parents give me $18,000, I think is the limit this year? Can my parents give me those funds? And then if they do give me these funds, isn't there an estate tax cap at 5.6 million, but that was increased under the Trump administration and it's supposed to sunset in 2025, and all of these things that I know, but there's no chance that I'm going to give somebody advice on this, right? So I would say, hey, gift funds are a way to get a mortgage executed and closed, right? Gift funds are a great tool if you're struggling with the down payment and you have parents that have the means to help and the willingness to help, right? Any tax questions should be directed to the CPA, Now, there's an asterisk to that, which is I generally tell people lenders don't report this information to the IRS. In other words, this gift letter that's going in the file, right, that is sold off as part of mortgage-backed securities, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, whatever, government insured. It's not like that goes in and then the IRS is going to send you a note for that, right? Do I know that for sure? I guess I don't, and we get really conspiratorial, but Danielle's not here, unfortunately, you know. So like
She's here.
she
She's right
is.
here.
Danielle,
She's
what do you
talking.
think? You think there's crossover between Fannie and the IRS?
Oh, hell yes.
That's what I wanted to see, right? So in general, what I would say is, tax questions, ask your CPA. You don't want to get stuck in a situation where now you're reading a bunch of guidelines or reciting a bunch of guidelines. That's what I tell people. That's kind of my suggestion, in terms of I'm not a tax advisor. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax accountant. That's not my area of expertise. I can tell you what is needed to close a loan, and I would suggest that, real estate agents kind of stay in your lane best you can just to avoid any kind of liability. That's it, guys. We are under 30 minutes today. Actually, probably under 25 when we considered all the sound issues at the beginning. Questions on gift funds, situations you've run into, open forum.
I have a question.
Sam?
Nothing to do with gift funds. Parade of Home starts this weekend. So, like, if we're talking to anyone, especially like maybe a lead that's coming through, wanting to see something, whatever, do you guys have any sort of like script or anything you want us to say to people that, I know it's hard to compete with builders, but not all builders are offering like these great incentives,
Yeah, I think honesty is the best policy. The big builders, they're going to smoke any and every lender and broker out there.
Yeah.
Right. Sam, I think it'd be curious to see, and maybe this is a PHT Agent Resources brainstorm, right? I'd be curious to see like what builders are offering what these days, right?
I've seen some just saying 5,000 in closing costs, but it's like, what rate are they getting? Or yeah, like it's some Lennars are offering 15,000, some are offering nothing, so they all differ.
Yeah. I mean, Danielle, like picking on you, but like you've got an appointment with a VA new build with a smallish builder that doesn't have a lending relationship, right? I mean, we would love to be involved in those situations. The Pulte's, I'm probably going to tell them like, hey, these guys are tough to beat. You know what I mean? I will tell you too that I'm on all these loan origination forums, and Matt is too, and these Facebook groups, and people just raging about like
Matt's
this
not on
unfair.
Facebook.
Well, yesterday he wasn't.
I'm on those forums. That's the only reason why I go on.
People raging about how unfair this is, how it should be against RESPA. It's like SCOTUS talked about this. Okay. Like this went to the Supreme Court in the United States. Okay. The builder is the seller. They can do whatever they want. They can incentivize the buyer however they want. It's a rigged game. Right. So I see these new originators come into our business and they're like, oh, I lost this in new construction. It's like, they got a great deal. That's the way it is. By the way, keep in touch with them. Give them honest advice. Say, hey, this is the way it is. They're going to cut you an awesome deal. They want control over the transaction. This is very common in new construction. If you guys are getting that deal, take it, and then if you're interested in refinancing down the road, I'd love for you to keep my name top of mind. Right. So, I don't know, Sam, you got me off on kind of like an origination tangent here, but yeah, I mean, it's going to depend builder by builder.
What are rates doing? I saw they went down a little bit.
What, today?
Yesterday.
Yeah, lowest they've been in 3 weeks. Sam, are you going to watch the Jerome Powell testimony?
I don't even know who that is.
He's the chairman of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, no.
Just flip it on. You never know what he's going to say. Maybe rates are going to plummet or skyrocket. Or more likely, he'll say nothing.
Yeah, like I don't care. We'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, Sam, I think that's a really good point. I think let's just kind of keep our ear to the ground on who's offering what, and yeah, I mean, we're always happy to have a conversation with somebody, and we're always, we're always going to tell them what the truth is, which unfortunately with the starving, lender community out there lately, like, not so sure everybody's going to tell people the truth. Oh, we're getting dark. Any other
Yeah.
questions, guys, on anything gift funds?
We're good here.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate you all being here. Have a wonderful Wednesday. We'll talk to you all soon.